Let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We're going to be talking about Cleveland, Ohio, which as many of the people in this group are investing in. So one of the nice perks about Cleveland, it's one of the cheapest cities to get started in. However, it's incredibly difficult if you've never lived there, you're trying to go remote. And so we've brought Mandria here to help us with it.
I apologize. I have dogs in the back. So Mandria is here to help explain to us about different Cleveland opportunities. She's a real estate agent out there, and she's been doing it since 2003, so pre-Great Recession. She's done things with FDIC, selling REO, short sales, just a lot of investor product grade homes. And so now she specializes in multi-units, office, industrial, and other types of commercial properties. But at the same time, she's got offices in Ohio, Florida, California, and other cities as well. So she's been a longtime member of AREA, the Asian Real Estate Association of America. And so she's here to help us explain this market and why we should or should not invest in Cleveland. So I'm gonna let you take it from here, Mandria.
Thank you, Nelson. I appreciate you having me here today. And just to give a little background, like you said, I worked with REOs for a long time. I used to be an asset manager myself, and I worked with the FDIC. So I have a lot of our clientele has invested as well. So I've worked with investors and things for years now. Not as much REO, which is a good thing. We own RealX and we do property management now, and we're full service, and we're happy to be working with all of this, our clients. So we'll get to Cleveland. Enough about me. So the Cleveland market overview, there's so much to cover. I was telling Annie and Nelson that I could go on for hours here, but first I'm going to tell you a little bit about Cleveland. If you've never been here, it hasn't in the past been a huge tourist destination, but recently it has been. So due to growth and building and development. So Cleveland is located on Lake Erie. It's one of the Great Lakes. We have a lot of people see that as a positive thing because we have a fresh water source, which is something that's coming up as far as wind technology, electricity, running out of water in the United States, things like that. We do have beaches actually in the summer. We have water sports, we have fishing, we have incredible view, and there's a river that runs right through Cleveland. We have a huge, amazing, actually, arts and cultural district where our Playhouse Square Center is second only to Broadway in the nation. A lot of people don't know that. It's beautiful. We get a lot of the Broadway shows. There's always different stuff going on there. We have the Museum of National History. Our art museums are amazing. And the Cleveland Orchestra is actually ranked 7th in the world. So if you didn't know that. We have a huge emerging brewery scene. We have 30 breweries that are in Cleveland proper. That most of them are recent builds. They've been part of the huge uptick in our economy here. We have the Cleveland Metro Parks, which is very hard to explain. We're going to need all of you to come here and see it, but it's this huge park system, and we have running trails. We have 18 reservations. We have paddleboarding, hiking, biking. We even have a train. It's just too much to explain. It's beautiful. And we have an awesome sports community. Clevelanders are very involved with sports. We have stadiums downtown that are gorgeous. The Brown Stadium's right on the lake. So even if you're not a Browns fan, you should still come check it out. I don't want to offend anyone. But a little bit more, something you need to know about Cleveland, and a lot of our out-of-state investors who don't deal with snow a lot. We do get a lot of snow in the winter. We're in the top in the nation for snowfall accumulation. So you need to make sure you include snow plowing services when you're doing your calculations for investing. Something to be mindful of. And I included some pictures here of some things we just talked about. The Cleveland Clinic is one of the best hospital systems in the world. They're expanding. They've been a huge part of the development that we've been seeing in Cleveland. I put in a couple pictures of our Playhouse Square district, the Cleveland Orchestra, our art museums, as well as Edgewater Park, which is on the lake in Cleveland. It's just beautiful. There's a beach there too. So why is Cleveland the place to invest? There's a lot of different reasons here, but Money Crushers ranked Cleveland #1 best city in America to invest right now due to the relative national averages of the homes and prospects for further appreciation due to development. Crain's magazine cited the Cleveland as being on America's most recession-proof markets in real estate. And there's a few different reasons for that. We have a very strong rental market. We have it's actually over 55%. It's about 55% of our people who live in Cleveland proper actually are renters. Now, we wanted to put something together a little bit to explain our rental property, what you should expect to receive. Rents in Cleveland could run anywhere from $800 a month. It should be $800. We do see them lower, but usually people are just trying to keep people there, for whatever reason. Should be about $800, running all the way up to $2,800 if you're going to be closer to downtown. So it's a huge range, and it can literally kind of go street by street. I'm going to try to get back into that a little bit more when I show you some of our property locations and how we rate them. The average household income has increased year over year. And we still have pretty average, lower than average household incomes, but they have gone up. And we're seeing the rentals increase with that as well. Overall, there's a housing shortage here, just like anywhere else. And that includes rentals. So right now, if you put something in a good neighborhood on the market that is a desirable, like that people want to be in, it's not going to last very long, even as a rental. The average home prices increased 7.3% year over year, and that was prior to COVID. So we were already on an uptick prior to COVID hitting. So a lot of the things that we're seeing as far as growth in the Cleveland market is not just because of the pandemic. We were already headed that way. And then the 23% over the last 2 years, that would be a little bit more pandemic related and the things we've seen in the economy nationwide. The city planning division has quite a bit of development plans and funds for strategic redevelopment over the next 5 years. And when I say a lot of funds, we're talking billions upon billions of dollars earmarked for development. And later on, I'm going to show you where, so you know. The healthcare sector is a major employer, including the Cleveland Clinic, which is one of the #1 hospital systems in the country and in top 10 in the world. University Hospital Systems is also a very, very good hospital system. We have Metro Health, which is expanding closer to, if you're familiar, it's going to be on the west side, south of Ohio City, West Side Market, and north of Old Brooklyn. And you can see it right off the freeway. You want to jump into the Cleveland market before it's dried up, because we're starting to see the buzz here on investors. It's kind of like a little bit of a secret. And we see some investors doing some maybe foolish investing, not really knowing where to go. I find a lot of local agents don't even know about the development that's being done in Cleveland or where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to kind of lead you down that path and show you, where you want to be looking. So this is something Annie actually pointed out on our Facebook page today. We do have a lot of properties under $130,000 that you can purchase in Cleveland. 319 properties in the greater Cleveland market, which is considered, I mapped out Cuyahoga County for the purpose of this search. This search includes properties between 70,000 and 130,000. It would have been a lot more if I included under 50,000. However, if you see something under 50,000, we need to take a little bit harder look at it just to make sure that it's in a location that it doesn't need a ton of work, or it's not a blighted neighborhood.
Is there a general rule of thumb that you can point out? Like, don't go on the south side like we do in Chicago. Like, that's kind of like a rule of thumb, or below a certain street.
There was a general rule of thumb. I do have a map I've included. I don't have a general rule of thumb. I can show, I'll show you on the map. Usually if it's going to be under 50,000, that might be a red flag. But if you run it by me, I'll tell you if it's just an awesome opportunity or if it's a red flag area. I guess the best way to describe it is you could go from kind of street to street. Like, you could be, say, here, and you could find properties for $30,000, but you don't want to be here, but you want to be here. So it's hard to say neighborhood by neighborhood. I had someone recently approach me about a property in Tremont, Ohio. A lot of investors know about Tremont, Ohio. It's an incredibly small section of the city. However, there's only a certain portion of Tremont that is the hot spot. And I'll show that to you as we go forward. So I'll answer that question in a little bit more detail as we go along here. So I wanted to show you this too. We talked earlier, and a lot of our investors that we work with are very educated, and they understand that Cleveland has had a declining population since 1960. But here's a couple things I want you to know. One, it hasn't affected our property values. They've still been rising. Despite that, our population was declining up until actually 2020. Actually, in 2021 and 2022, we actually saw a slight population increase. So far in 2022, we've seen a 0.06 population increase. So the UN is now projecting that we will be from 1769, 1,769,000 to 1,932,000 by 2035. So we are going to be seeing a steady population growth increase. And that just recently happened because a lot of the development in Cleveland has recently happened. So Cleveland's a small city in general. When you see it, it's incredibly small on scale. So that's a little bit of it as well. And also you have a decrease in household size. So that's a lot of the reasons why we've seen that even now. A little bit of a mystery, even kind of city planners don't really understand why we've had the growth that we've had as far as income, property values, and business coming into the area without the population increase. And that's kind of a trend nationwide due to the increase in household sizes. So don't get scared by that. We are expecting a population increase, which means that we expect to see further growth. Because to be honest, Cleveland is a pretty cool city when you kind of get here and get on the ground. It's kind of a cool place to be. So I'm going to do a little high level thing because I want to make sure everybody has time for Q&A at the end. However, what I put together here is a list of all of the properties in Cuyahoga County. This is from the past 5 years. I'm just trying to kind of show you the population growth. As I said before, our increase in our property values, that's our blue line here. This has steadily been increasing. This is 2017. Now we've had some upticks here, but to be on, and then this is obviously the housing market where we really started taking off, but we're actually above that now. So the market is at its, I don't want to say peak going forward, but the peak that we've seen, our current market. Our average days on market is under 30 days at about 27 days. And this is the green line over the past 5 years, since 2017 as well. So we have a very healthy, growing real estate market in Cleveland. And you can still buy at affordable rates, and you can get good rents for the properties. So let me go. Okay, there we go. So Nelson, here's our map of our neighborhoods here. This is a pretty high level map. We could go into further detail. We've seen this stuff on Bigger Pockets. One of them is very outdated. One of them include the other map that I saw. I know a lot of our members watch that and use them. However, one of them rules out 44105, which I'll give you an instance. This is 44105. However, this is a very hot market here. And so is this. This is also 44105. So you can't even break it down by zip code. You really have to go street by street. And if you're concerned about safety, there are crime map statistics as well, if that's a concern, that I can provide for you the links on how to get to that if that's a concern for the group. But in general, as far as property values, we have this green section here is what we would consider prime. This is going to be prime. this is where generally you're going to want to buy, and you're going to pay top dollar. So it's very difficult to even buy downtown. There's very limited amount of real estate for sale. Most of it is a rental market. Our B neighborhood are these light blue neighborhoods. These are considered B. Our C would be here. So these are more maybe suburbs, a little bit of Cleveland. This is going to be a decent place to get a good investment property at a good price. So
What is the cash on cash you might see in the A versus C neighborhoods?
you're going to see, if you're looking at, say, we'll use capitalization rate just because it's the easiest to kind of break down for people. If you're here, you're going to be closer to 6-7% cap rate. If you're downtown, I would expect more around 5. If you start moving into the D neighborhoods, you could get as high as 9 and upwards. So does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that checks. Go on.
Okay. So does anyone else have any questions about, do you have any other questions about where to buy, where not to buy?
Is there any risk of the water affecting the buildings?
No, not necessarily. This isn't considered, you have to go property by property for flood zoning because there's rivers and lakes and things like that. But overall, we don't have a huge flood risk from Lake Erie. Most of the environmental stuff that we're going to deal with is going to be snow related. We do have thunderstorms that can produce tornadoes, but we're not Kansas either. So that's another threat. We get some strong storms maybe in the summer, but we don't have many environmental threats here other than snow and the issues that can cause. As far as places that are really hot right now, you're going to be looking at Edgewater, Detroit Shoreway, Tremont. And this is the section of Tremont that I was just speaking of. This is the hot market in Tremont, where you're not blocked by the freeway. This D section is another part of Tremont. This is a D. So this is a B, which is a really good place to buy. And this is a D. And then parts of Tremont are in our A section. So, you want to be wary of that. If you do come across a property and you have a question, just let me know. I'm very familiar with this area. Most of the neighborhoods in this I'm pretty familiar with, and I could tell you right off the top of my head. It does sometimes get broken down block by block too. So we can't really break it down by zip code. I have seen the maps. They're a little too general for me. And some of it has changed because it's rapidly changing. I'm going to move on because I don't want to keep you here. And Nelson, if you'll give me when I'm out of time here.
I got you. Typically, yeah, just feel free to present what you think you need to present. But usually we try to save a lot of questions for the end. But I can also just ask questions in the middle if that works easier.
Perfect. That works for me. This map is, so we talked about the community redevelopment and our opportunity zones in Cleveland through HUD. We have those, they're kind of run in line with this, but we have a huge project initiative through the City of Cleveland planning. The areas that you see that have lines here are current redevelopment areas. So for instance, downtown in the flats, I mean, they're still putting tons of money. That would be this, downtown, the actual city, that's already a difficult market to get into. A couple of years ago, had a friend move here from California, from Newport Beach, and was shocked at what she had to pay in rent in downtown Cleveland. So if you're on the water, it can be pretty significant. $3,000, $3,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment. Yeah. Now that area here, it just depends on your appetite. If this is a good place to buy on it. It would be very difficult to get into here for under 10 million. If you did see something under 10 million that is in this location, I would recommend buying it. Now, Midtown is my favorite section of development. So this is downtown, okay? And this map kind of covers up a freeway that runs right here to University Circle. University Circle is where most of our students who go to Case Western Reserve and our researchers and fellows do their fellowships for the Cleveland Clinic, which is located through here. Okay.
Did you clarify if you said under 10 million, it's a discount?
Yes, downtown, downtown in downtown proper. So here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then we might go over this later, but someone asked about Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights. So I guess, is that a suburb of Cleveland?
It is, but I am absolutely willing to get into that because we do have a lot of investors who purchase there. So yes, I can talk on that now. I'll finish this section and then I'll get to I call them the heights. So the thing is, so we have the Cleveland Clinic pickled in here, right? This is downtown. This is where all the action is. You have the educational and the arts district here. There's no good way to get from here to here. Okay, the values are very, very low here, but increasing. They're putting a ton of money and development into this, and it would make sense that they would link the two most, what's the word for it? I don't want to say affluent, but the two best neighborhoods in Cleveland together. Okay. So if you get an opportunity to buy something in Midtown, I would take it. They're investing a significant amount of money there. And it kind of runs in line with the urban planning here. As for Shaker Heights, you said Shaker Heights and
Cleveland Heights.
And Cleveland Heights. So the reason they're not on this map is this is actually the city of Cleveland planning map, which it's Shaker Heights and the Heights aren't considered, they aren't considered Cleveland proper. But there is a ton of development going on in Shaker Heights. And I could do a webinar on Shaker Heights alone. So you can easily get into Shaker Heights. It's a great place to buy rentals. You can get into Shaker Heights under 150 and get really great tenants. And there's tons of new stuff going in there. University Heights as well. I would buy anywhere in University Heights right now because there's a lot of development going on there as well. Your rentals in Shaker Heights could run anywhere from $850 to $1,500 a month. So properties that are available.
Gotcha. Is there a general direction of growth in Cleveland that trends in one direction or another?
The growth is up. It's considered going up. As far as population growth, we're
sorry
going
to
to be
clarify.
looking at.
I meant the direction within the city. Like, is it northeast where the growth is headed? Like when people move there, where do the people generally move to? Like, say I'm from California, where would I want to move if not downtown? Is there like a general direction that people are buying the new development in?
No, and that's kind of part of the city plan. They're strategically moving it so that there's no one location. But I could probably give you 10 places if you were moving from California that I would think were very cool to live, but there's probably more than that you might want to choose. So there's the west side, the east side, and there's some cool opportunity here. So to get into that, anything over here is considered east side of downtown. Generally, the Cuyahoga River measures what's east side and west side. Anything over here is considered west side. So say every location kind of has a vibe, so it just depends on the person. It's actually kind of cool, but they're strategically developing throughout the entire city, east side and west side, to fill it in. So they're trying they don't want to have neighborhoods that are isolated. They're trying to eliminate, you know, they're trying to eliminate neighborhoods that aren't great. So, and trying to find voids for that. I think maybe I might be able to answer the question if as far as directions in general, no. If someone's looking to move here and they're interested in something, I can probably answer that question better.
Okay, no worries. Okay, Ryan Chun followed up and asked, then in terms of growth, besides healthcare and hospitals, what is driving Cleveland's economy, job growth, manufacturing, or tech? I
So-
can actually help answer. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go. Go ahead, because you
Oh,
know a lot of stuff.
There's a website called BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, so you can use that to usually check and see which one's growing the fastest. But Cleveland's like 20% of the workforce is in logistics, because I'm guessing it's like a central location because it's right on the lake. So there's probably a bunch of train lines that run through it. At least historically, that's how it's been. I know Chicago was like that. It was just the center for a lot of trains. And the fact that it's on the water, it made it easier to like transport stuff from like New York through the lakes to Chicago or Cleveland. So 20% of the jobs are in there. And then there's also 150% professional and business services. And then I'm guessing that would include medicine. I don't think they separated medicine or healthcare. And then education and health services. Never mind, I'm dumb. That's another 20%. So those are the three biggest sectors: is professional services, trade, and education and health. So, but yeah, sorry, back to you.
Yeah, and thank you. That's a really, really good good answer. Yeah. And when we were talking about logistics, yes, there's a lot of utilization for the lake for research and development of wind energy. That's a huge thing. Logistics also, we are through the Port of Baltimore, which is more easily accessible than you would think, but over that lake is Canada. So we're very close proximity to Detroit. You can get to Baltimore pretty easily. All in all, Cleveland's a good location, and we do have really great highway systems already in place. And most of the highway issues we're having were intercity, which has been addressed in the last couple of years and still being addressed. So for instance, connecting certain communities together, they've done a really good job with that. For instance, the Tremont area was kind of isolated by itself, which by the way, I was circling the wrong area, but they recently connected Tremont directly to downtown, but still kept it an isolated, cool little neighborhood. So that's interesting. The education and health sector is gigantic. We kind of talked a little bit. I've had a lot of people ask, like, where is the Cleveland Clinic? The Cleveland Clinic is located all over here. They have their main campus is here. They have campuses here. Then you have University Health System. I will tell you, as far as healthcare goes, if you ever have an issue and you need good healthcare, you can find it on any corner in this area, at any end in the suburbs where I don't think Clevelanders realize how fortunate they are. Cleveland Clinic has facilities in every city. And they're growing. So, and we also have the educational systems as well. A lot of our research is done in
Where's Case Western?
Case Western Reserve is located in University Circle. A lot of research, medical research, and fellowships are done in conjunction with university hospital systems and Case Western Reserve University.
Got it. Okay. Helen asked, are you seeing more opportunities in multifamily or single family? Or do you think both are doing good in Cleveland?
They're both doing really good. The single family is doing especially well for sellers. There is still opportunity. The most popular price point for multifamilies is 2 million. Everybody wants under 2 million. So those kind of tend to fly off the market if they're producing over a 5.5 cap. Those tend to move pretty quickly. It's not so quickly that you can't get your hands on it like a single family. If you're over the 2 million price point, because it's a little bit less attainable, there's not as many investors who can afford to purchase that. It's a little more, unattainable for the general population. There's a little more opportunity there. Now, there is still opportunity. Single families in general, we have really, really low days on market right now. In the entire area, we have a 27 days on market. So as you're breaking it down, if you're in Lakewood, 6 days on market. If you're in, things are just moving very, very quickly for high amounts. There's still opportunity.
What about short-term rentals? Are those allowed?
Short-term rentals, yes, Airbnb is allowed, and short-term rentals of any sort. Generally, I'm not aware of any restrictions in any neighborhoods for short-term rentals at this time. Is that our last one?
No, we have some more.
So-
Anne mentioned as a California briefly in Cleveland, she and other millennials lived in around Tremont, Ohio City, and downtown. I feel like I cut somebody off. Was somebody wanting to ask a question? Sorry, go ahead.
No, Nelson. Yeah, I just want to ask. So, what kind of properties do you invest there, Ashley? Right? Do you have any short-term rentals over there, or do you invest in multifamily?
We do multifamily, and we actually we prefer cash purchases that are cheaper and higher rental return. And that's okay if you have a good property management company locally. You have a little bit more risk with that. We're boots on the ground here. So that's what we would invest in, as well as apartments. So we actually sold our single families, and we're looking to buy a big apartment ourselves. That's kind of our next.
So, next question, so about multifamily, right? Now the rate of interest. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Now the rate of interest is like 5% to 6%, right? So what should an average cap rate I should expect in a GRM?
It would be neighborhood specific, but anywhere at that, with the rates being up, under 6%, I would expect to get a cap rate around 5 to 8%, depending on the neighborhood. That's for multifamily commercial.
Right.
Okay.
And when you say multifamily commercial, we are looking at more like fourplex plus, right?
Yes.
That's what you're talking about. Okay.
Yes. Now, if you bought a 4-unit, say in certain areas on the east side, you might be able to get as high as a 9 still. Ultimately, there's a lot of development projected for everywhere but East Cleveland right now that I'm aware of. So you're probably going to make a safe bet regardless. I recently had a loan officer tell me when we were talking about the concerns about rates, and we're talking about a purchase, and he said you can always refinance. You can always refinance if the rates go down. I don't know that that's going to happen, but
On the subject of that, actually,
Mhm.
what is the laws for multifamily owners? Is it more tenant or landlord friendly? Do you know how long it would take to evict somebody, say, for example, in Cleveland?
Actually not long. I'm back in. It was longer because the system was backed up, but you can serve a 3-day notice, and usually the eviction's done within 30 days here. It's different than California. When I was an asset manager, I worked in California actually, and we are a judicial state. So it's a little bit, you can evict pretty easily.
Okay.
I do want to point something out that I didn't include in my slideshow. I do have a little bit more slideshow left here, so I'm going to move quickly. When the person who asked about the Shaker Heights and the Heights, we also need to be concerned about what's called the point of sale inspection in Cleveland. The cities, I call them the Heights. Anything that ends in Heights pretty much has a point of sale. And those are repairs that have to be done to the property prior to transfer. A lot of people who are selling investment properties push those onto the buyers. So that's something you need to see. You need to be asking your real estate agent and the seller about to know if the point of sale inspection is done and what's on it and how much it's going to cost. For instance, let's take Garfield Heights. We have seen instances where someone was buying a house for $75,000 and there was $40,000 that needed to be escrowed in addition prior to purchasing to assume the violations. And then the violations had to be completed and the escrow would be returned to them. Every city is different and they change constantly. So it's just something to be mindful of. I don't want to scare you about it, but you do need to be mindful of it. It's something when you're looking at a property, you need to be mindful of and look into, okay? Point of sale inspection. I'm going to move on to the next slide because I also want to talk about taxes. Taxes in Cleveland are a little bit relative to the values of the properties. When we say these percentages are called millage, I'm sure you guys are familiar with that term. And essentially it equates to, we'll say Bay Village is 2.52. So $2,525 annually for the annual millage. So I have included this. I'm happy to, yeah, these are the tax rates. You can expect anything under 2 would be considered dirt cheap, but our average is about 2.5. So
These are pretty similar to Chicago, Texas.
Yes, we have high property tax rates. This isn't, it is kind of relative. You will notice that usually we'll take Maple Heights, for instance, they have a very high tax rate. However, you can buy properties in Maple Heights and rent them for under $70,000. Maple Heights is also not a terrible place to buy. It's a great place to have. It's a working class community with good renters and tenants, and you can get $1,100 for a decent home there. And I could break these down city by city, and I could make another slideshow.
So when is how is the reassessment done for property taxes? Is it every 2 years on purchase? How does that work?
It's triannually, and we just had it done this year.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, that's similar to what we did in Chicago. Every 3 years, they come back and reassess it. It's every 2 years for multifamily, though. 3 years for single.
We're very similar to Chicago in a lot of those aspects. There is no saying that they wouldn't try to reassess a property upon purchase, although that's not a general rule of thumb. They don't go out and reassess your house the minute that you buy it. They do reserve the right to, though. So, but generally, they pretty much leave you alone to those triannual dates. And this was a bad year for that. A lot of people were very, very upset and contesting their taxes, and it was a big thing. Because I'm sure you can imagine, I'm sure that's the case across the nation. So I'm happy to share this. I have copies of this from our title company partner, and we'd be happy to share this sheet if anybody wants to keep it for a reference. I included several multifamily portfolios that are on the market. If we want to talk about off-market properties or anything else specific, I kind of included these because they've been on the market. They're good opportunities, and I like the neighborhoods, and I'll tell you why. So this is a multifamily apartment complex. This one could be purchased separately or together. This is in Lakewood, Ohio. Lakewood, Ohio is a very stable community. If any of you know Kevin, you could just ask him. We took him all around Lakewood. It's a younger community, a lot of people moving out of their parents' house and getting a place, a lot of duplexes, great place for young people in their early 20s to live. And it's a great community. Always has been, always will be. So that hasn't changed. These two are, let's see, I'm having a little, okay, there we go. Let me go backwards here. Sorry, I
While
lost
you're
the spot.
clicking through, no worries. While you're clicking through, Ayumi asked, she's seeing a lot of new high-end constructions that are by the lake, but they're significantly higher monthly payments than Cleveland's median household income. Is the expectation that high income populations are going to migrate to Cleveland, or are the developers mainly speculating?
Yeah, we are seeing rise in income in general. And yes, so we do have isolated areas like on the water where we've always had more there, they've always been worth more. Cleveland's a very unique market where you have a $2 million house that's on the water in certain areas, and then 2 blocks down, you have a $30,000 house. It's incredibly interesting. But yes, they are seeing more income increases
It's
as well.
it's also hard because when you are talking about lakefront properties, I'm guessing that's like the top level class A buildings, but you're you're also comparing that to the average income. So like if you can, there's this website called City Data you can use to see the ranges of income. And so I would say like take maybe the 80th or 90th percentile of income in Cleveland and see if that can afford the lakefront before figuring out like can the people who are buying those homes afford to live in those homes. Okay, sorry, keep going.
Well, the other thing I might want to point out, because that's a great question too, is Cleveland does have a lot of tax incentives. There are tax abatements for newer properties that are green and such. So that's something that kind of can sometimes make some properties more affordable immediately. And they've done a pretty good job over the last 10 years of accounting for the income growth that would come. The city planners that we're utilizing, we teamed up with Chicago. The city of Cleveland teamed up with Chicago as far as their city planning. And so and I think that they've even done a better job because they've kind of learned from some past mistakes. So they're on a really good track. I shared with you some of that. Like I said, in the time that we have, I don't want to give you guys too much. But all at once, we could go over this for a while. This property is under 2 million for 2 apartment complexes. So if you can get in Lakewood, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. If you do want more information or anything like that, this is a 24 unit, 2 units separated in Lakewood in good area. This one's a 56 unit portfolio, which I love this portfolio. I love it because it's in I have another site I'll show you here. It's in a B and C neighborhood. So they're separate. They're 3 miles from each other, all in Cleveland Heights. So you have like the ones closer to like the Little Italy, University Heights, we'll call it the cultural district, where they have Severance Hall, Little Italy. And then the other ones are located closer to East Cleveland, which there's some development going on in that part of Cleveland Heights as well. And that would be considered a C class neighborhood by investment standards. There's a good opportunity. You're going to somewhere make a lot of money, probably on the ones in closer to East Cleveland. But you're going to have a solid tenant base. So I like that property in particular. That's why I included in here. Also, it has an assumable loan at 4.41%, a Fannie Mae included with it. So you can lock into that rate. Now, as far as I know, we haven't gotten all the details in that particular, it's probably why they haven't sold it, but the property, I don't believe that's an ARM either, like a Freddie Mac. So if you guys are interested, I'm kind of showing you neighborhoods more than anything. But so these are 56 units, 4 buildings, and you can see that 2 of them are here, 2 of them are here. This is a very popular spot, being Little Italy. Coventry is a really cool little neighborhood there. And then you're also close, if you just go down the hill here, you're in the neighborhood of Severance Hall, the Cleveland Art Museum, the Natural History Museum, University Heights Case Western Reserves Research Center. That's right here. So this is considered a great, this is a B neighborhood. This is a C neighborhood, but it's pretty strategic. This one I love, and this one's located in Midtown. My business partner, our broker, actually used to own this building and sold it for $660,000 a while back, and is kicking herself in the butt right now. So this property is located in Midtown, where most of the development that we're seeing in Cleveland is going on, and they're investing a ton of money. They currently have, this is a pro forma cap rate. They have been, I would say that the actual cap rate from the numbers that they gave us is closer to 5, but I still wouldn't run from the property. They did do a lot of work. I know they put a roof on, they put half of the new windows. I know that there was some work done to it over the years after it's changed hands. The price per door is $7,500. So this block that this property is located in just the block alone, they're investing $500 million around the surrounding area. So that was kind of on part of the map that I gave you earlier. You probably don't remember, I'm throwing so much stuff out there, but this is the area between downtown Cleveland and University Circle that we talked about, called Midtown, and there's tons of opportunity. If
So
you
say we buy this property, do they chase and update the tax assessment when you sell it, or is it still the triennial update?
I have a feeling if you were to purchase the property and do something good for the community with it, they probably wouldn't. But I have a feeling, yes, they're going to try to make money where they can. But right now, they are really trying to get people to responsible people purchasing properties, responsible investors. That particular building isn't what I would call blighted. It was more of the neighborhood, so it doesn't need a ton of work. I can't make any guarantees because yes, they could come in and raise your if you purchase it. Yeah.
If it helps in Chicago, they don't do chase on sale. They do it every 2 years though. So you just don't want to be caught on the second year end of the reassessment. So
well, what we can do is we can dig a little deeper on that with the city as well. From what I understand, no, they don't. They don't at the time of sale. However, I don't want to answer that question because I have seen them do it before. So kind of want to see what the intention would be. They really want to develop this area. Now, this is the location of that building. Okay. This is 169 unit called the Foundry that is currently under construction. This is going to be the Foundry Loft. So that's really cool. This is just a blank. This was not a good area. Okay. This is the place that you wish you would have bought a $50,000 property, and you still can. There is still opportunity for single family in these surrounding areas. And I don't think it'd be a bad idea to buy. The Cleveland Foundation is building this building. The construction has not started yet. Also, they have some construction going on over here. I'm going to go back one slide.
So yeah, on the question of that, so if the city really wants it, Anne was mentioning that the city has opportunity corridors where they, for example, around the lake, has that like panned out in terms of the people moving to that region and population growth in those particular regions that the city invested in back in 2014?
Yeah, the opportunity zones. This actually is part of that. It is part of the opportunity zones, the opportunity corridor. So they're still investing. And yes, we have seen positive uptick in values in those areas. We've seen about from the time in 2014, I think that we haven't seen anything that's outside of the market on a whole, but we've seen about a 16% increase apparently in our opportunity zones in general. They haven't been broken down by neighborhood, but I could kind of isolate a neighborhood for you in particular, just south of there. I haven't seen this type of development yet, though, other than University Circle, which since 2014, I mean, some of the values have increased just in 50%.
Got it. Okay.
in that area. And that was the first area that we actually saw them invest this much money into. They're invested just in this block alone that I'm showing you on that map. That's 525 currently in current projects.
Got it. So
Um,
Ben asked about the Midtown area one. What is the development funds targeting to improve in that area? He used to live there, or he used to live in Cleveland, and that place was really rough.
It is really, yes, that is correct. It was. So he's going to be interested to see this. So I'm not sure when he lived here, but in 2019, they started the development. So we have this Dave's Market. It's just this really cool, fancy market. They already built that. So that's there. They've built, so this housing development's going in. This is the 6 acres adjacent to the building that I'm showing you. It's on the market. They're bringing in the Cleveland Foundation headquarters, and the Cleveland Innovation Project is going to be run out of this as well. So tech and research. This link is actually part of our slideshow, so you can just click on it. This is a hotel that's going to be going in. This is going to be just a little further down the road from the foundation building. About 3 blocks over, this hotel they're supposed to start construction on this. It was supposed to be this month. And I'd have to actually drive by it to see. This is going in. This is going into the person from Cleveland will know, the Masonic Temple was converted to a concert hall. And that's going to be attached to the Masonic Temple. So if you haven't been to Cleveland and seen Midtown lately, you should probably check it out. Sometimes I actually drive around Cleveland and I'm surprised at what, like, oh, there's something new, it's kind of crazy. This school, when we talked about the education sector, the magnet headquarters is going in there as well. Now, this is East 63rd and Chester, which is located in the map that I just had up for you. But this hasn't actually been started yet. So sometimes you got to give it a minute and make sure that they're actually doing it. But this is all part of the innovation community, and that Midtown is going to be known as the innovation community. So they're not just talking about it anymore, they're doing it. So this is going to be Euclid Avenue and East 66. This is all happening in the portions that I'm showing you on this map. So this entire, you can click on the link if you want more information on those actual developments. I kind of just wanted to show you the actual project. But to give you a high level view, I kind of zoned in on that particular property and the development that's going on. So that hotel will be right over here. The 66 is located right here. So these projects we're talking about, these are all in this region. So he's right, this was very rough. And it was also the bridge that separates University Heights from downtown. And I always said, this has opportunity eventually. Euclid Avenue, to the person from Cleveland, Euclid Avenue is north of it, and just the Cleveland Clinic has just expanded out, and they've really built that up as well. It's insane. I wish, there's a lot of times where you go, wow, wish I would have saw that coming. So, and then I have one more property that's in Old Brooklyn, which next to Midtown seems pretty boring in comparison to all the exciting things going on. But Old Brooklyn is a pretty stable neighborhood. This property is a very affordable apartment complex for what it is. It's the cap rate's currently at 5.38%. Now, this property was under contract and the buyer actually canceled because their interest rate went up. Now, this isn't my property, so I can share this information because it's not even my client, but this property did appraise at value. All of the surveys, everything are done on it. I kind of wanted it, and it went under contract. I had a client who was interested at the time and ended up getting something else. So I just want to share that.
So I'm gonna follow up on Ryan's question. What other areas besides Cleveland are good neighborhoods, like even suburbs. So he's listed like Lakewood, Westlake, Solon, Strongsville, and Hudson. What are your thoughts on those investments outside of Cleveland proper?
I'm going to bring everybody back to the map because he sounds like he kind of knows where these places are, but I want to kind of, this map will help us a little bit more. Lakewood is a great suburb. It's always been a solid place. It's not something that, there's still growth there, but it's always been a great place to buy rentals, okay? And it's considered a good community to live in. Rocky River is an excellent place to live. Strongsville is located down here below Berea and Middleburg Heights. I live in Hinckley, which is next door to Strongsville, so I'm down here. These are considered suburbs of Cleveland. You're about, from Strongsville, Hinckley, you're gonna be about 30 minutes to downtown, but you do have close freeway access. I'm actually pointing, Strongsville should be here. So those are both great communities. Independence has low taxes and it's still a very good community. There's a lot of businesses there, a lot of, there's some hotels, restaurants. That's a good place to be. If you're looking for what you would typically call a Class A suburb, those would all be considered that. Parma and Parma Heights are really, they're B class, but they're really great communities to buy in. Olmsted Falls is a great suburb. Westlake is also, it's a great suburb and it's growing as well. Do you have any other questions about that? Nope.
No, I think Brian, you can chime in. I know this is your question. I don't know this as well, so.
What are your thoughts on Solon and Hudson, which is kind of east
Yes.
and south?
Yes, Solon and Hudson. Hudson is awesome. Hudson's one of my favorite communities. It's just got a really cool, the main street. It's got a lot of like fun. It's just a really strong sense of community there, like what your quintessential suburb. But it's got a lot going on. Solon is developing. So Solon would be a good place to buy right now, because it's growing and they're doing some growth there. It's always been a good place to live, but they're kind of trying to build it up more like Hudson as well.
And how about north? Is there anything north of the city, north, on the lake? What is it? Wycliffe or Mentor?
Mentor's good. Mentor's a good suburb. A lot of people like Mentor. Wycliffe is kind of growing a little bit. You can buy properties still in Wycliffe under 150,000. Mentor would be considered a B to A community for sure. Good schools, huge school, huge city. That would be a decent place to buy if you're looking for a higher end type of rental. I don't know about draw for any type of tourism or short-term rentals. It would kind of depend on what you were looking for there. Mentor's always been hustling and bustling. There's always something going up, coming down. So as far as development, there's always development going on there. I'm not really seeing any huge growth there beyond what's already there. But there is Headlands National Park beach there, which is really, really a nice beach. Really cool.
So is the west side more still the stronger growth opportunity, investment opportunity?
Yes, as far as the west suburbs, I would say, yeah. Rocky River, Lakewood, Westlake, Avon Lake, and anything south of Cleveland, from Independence, Valley View, Hinckley. The thing is that when you get south down by Strongsville and Hinckley, those communities they're expensive to buy in. The homes could be easily, in retrospect, you guys are from San Francisco, so that doesn't mean a lot, but you probably didn't come to Cleveland to spend $1 million on a house, so because those values are up really high. if I was coming to buy in a suburb, I would say Westlake, Rocky River, or Lakewood. When we say north, I would say northeast of Cleveland. Maybe in the future, if they can do some lakefront development here, if Burke Lakefront Airport would sell, I would say start buying around there. But really, right now, there's not a whole lot going on to speak of.
Got it. Thank you. So that kind of concludes it for our time today. It's we're gonna close off and hopefully not take up too much of everyone's time for the rest of the day. But thank you again for your time, Andrea. I know this was not easy and it's pretty long-winded way to explain all this information to, you know, us learning this for the first time. And so thank you again for your time. We're going to upload the recording, or you guys can follow up on the Facebook Live video, but thank you again for your time. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone else.